Welcome, crypto fam, to number one daily Bitcoin pod. In today's show, I'll be sharing the latest astrology for the broskies, as well as breaking news. El Salvador buys 12 more Bitcoin in a day, bringing their reserve to 6,068 BTC. Also breaking news, ARK Invest confirms that Bitcoin is on pace to meet its 2030 price target of 1.5 million per coin. Also, Sailor tweeted, big strategy day with the B symbolizing Bitcoin. So big earnings report being announced by MicroStrategy today. We'll also be discussing monthly Bitcoin production drops as the miners fight the rising hash rate. As you know, hash rate hit a new all-time high. Price follows the hash. Also, Rainforest Foundation, US NGO, plans a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Also, Ohio Senator introduces the state's second bill for the Bitcoin reserve. This is the second time. We'll also be discussing the Bitcoin reserve review, a top priority for the Trump administration, according to the crypto czar, David Sachs, which was breaking news yesterday. We'll also be discussing the Bitcoin price will rise to 500,000 per coin before Trump leaves office in 2028, according to Standard Chartered Bank. And the largest shareholder of that company happens to be BlackRock. We'll also be taking a look at the overall crypto market. All this, plus so much more in today's show. But let's kick this mofo off. If you're new to the channel, important to smash the likes, go ahead, subscribe, then hit that bell icon, turn on all notifications to receive daily premium crypto newsletters every single day, 7 days a week, just like this, including hump days. And yeah, today is pod episode 1897. I'm your host, JV. It's February 5th, 2025. A lot going on in the market. Lots of volatility. It's like we recapture 100,000 every day when I go live. It seems to be this way. The current all-time high was on Inauguration Day, Jan 20th in the morning before Trump got inaugurated. We hit the current price discovery level of 109.3. Once we break that, I think we're smooth sailing, 120 to 130 price range. But right now we're stuck at 100 being the hump on hump day. Go figure. But anyways, let's kick it off with our market watch as we do each and every day. You see Bitcoin pull back just a little bit, maintaining above 98.2. Lots of volatility in the market. We have Ether down 1%, XRP down 6%. Most of the alts correcting and in the red. And checking out coinmarketcap.com. We have a market cap of 3.23 trillion. We have a Bitcoin market cap of 1.944 trillion, and we got roughly 158 billion worth of volume for the past 24 hours. And the Bitcoin dominance maintaining above 60% at 60.3%. Ether dominance, same as yesterday, 10.4%. And checking out top 100 crypto gainers past 24 hours. Ironic enough, yesterday it was Melania coin leading the pack. Today it's Trump coin. Up 7%, very modest for a top gainer because virtually everything's correcting and in the red. But Trump coin's up, but it's still trading at less than $19. I believe the top on this one is somewhere between 70 to 75. So a lot of investors got wrecked there as I anticipated. And we also have Litecoin up 3%, and Gala up 2%, and then a scam token by the name of FTT coin up 2%. Go figure. But which alts, if any, are you bullish on for the bull? Holla. And checking out the crypto bubbles, we get the visual perspective on the day for the broskies. And as you can see, Rec City, like 90% of the market in the red. Zooming out on the monthly, does it get any better? No, it actually gets worse. Some of these alts are down 20, 30, 40, 50%. So be careful with the shitcoinery, broskies. And checking out the Crypto Greed and Fear Index. Today we're at 54, back in neutral. Yesterday 72, last week is 72, and last month is 76. Extreme greed. And today you can exchange one fiat monopoly dollar for 1,021 sats. We're on block height number 882,418. We have 167,582 blocks until the next halving. So put down the gats, pick up the sats, and pick up some Bitcoin caps from my boy Sergio. Get a custom Bukele camouflage cap over at bitcoincaps.net. Let them know JV sent you. You should be able to see this on your screen via TradingView via Coinbase. As you can see, this is the 1 hour chart. 1, 2, 3, 4 consecutive red candles heading downwards for the past 4 hours. As you can see, reflective of the chart. Checking out the 4 hour chart. This is live and in the flesh. You can see we still have that $130,000 target in play, which is a beautiful thing. We do have some bear targets you got to be aware of, all the way down to 68. I think it was Arthur Hayes, just Blaze, who said we can go revisit 70,000. I don't think that happens, but I am also open-minded enough to understand anything can happen, right? Like, I don't have a crystal ball, and there's no guarantee or certainty we wake up tomorrow, and that's just the dead honest truth. So be prepared for all scenarios. And do you have a strategy if we did crash to stack more sats? And do you have a strategy? Do you have enough Bitcoin to where you'll feel good if we raise right up to 130,000 this month? Prepare accordingly. You know what I mean? And zooming out, we'll check out the daily chart. You can see big red candle forming, unfortunately. Yesterday was a big green candle, like clockwork, as we continue to trade sideways here, starting off February. And zooming out from the daily, let's check out the 1 week chart. We have the sexy cup and handle target in play, sitting at 124 G's. Baby. And I think we hit that here in February. I mean, I'm optimistic. It's my favorite month of the year. I may be biased, but it is what it is. And zooming out from the weekly, we check out the monthly. The monthly chart shows thus far, February thus far is red for the week, but we're only 5 days deep. December, itty bitty green. November was the itty bitty corrective. I'm sorry, January was the itty bitty green, December was the itty bitty red, and then the big bull Godzilla candle, the biggest we have seen on the monthly chart, was in November. But there you have it, yo. Let me know your thoughts. And headline here reads, El Salvador buys 12 of the bitty in a day, bringing the reserve to 6,068 BTC. Take that, IMF. F the IMF. We don't need them, eh? F the IMF. We gonna be okay. El Salvador has again stocked up his growing Bitcoin reserve, buying 12 of the bitty in the last day amid the dip of the crypto markets. BTFD Bukele. The country bought 11 Bitcoin on February 4th, my favorite number, for just over 1.1 million. Removed a decimal, it's another 1111. That's an 11111111. An average price of 101,000 per Bitcoin. It later purchased an additional 1 Bitcoin for 99 G's, according to the government's Bitcoin office tracker. It brings the Central American country's holdings to a total of 6,068 of the bitty, valued at over 554 million at today's prices. El Salvador stacked 21 of the bitty this week. The Bitcoin office said, shout out to the Bitcoin office, which is ran by the one and only Stacey Herbert, which also showed the country had purchased 60 BTC over the past 30 days. So my question for you, since Bukele accepted the IMF deal for the $1.4 billion loan, did they cut back on Bitcoin adoption or have they increased it? You answer, broskies. The first strategic Bitcoin reserve in the world keeps growing, and so El Salvador keeps a winning. That's a W. Shout out to the Bitcoin office. Bitcoin fell to a 24-hour low of 96 G's, but we're currently back above 98 at the time of the live in that ballpark. The other day, we flipped all the way down to 91, flash crash, and then within a few hours, we're right back at 102. The extra Bitcoin buys comes after President Bukele struck that $1.4 billion financing agreement with the IMF last month, where he agreed his government would step back from some of its Bitcoin initiatives. Some of the changes made by the country included making private sector acceptance of Bitcoin voluntary. Now, I have to address this because it was always voluntary. You have the option when you visit Bitcoin country or if you live there to pay with Bitcoin or US dollars. And some vendors are not accepting Bitcoin. I know because I had ice cream for dessert and I asked a local ice cream vendor, do you accept Bitcoin? And she said, no. And so what I do, I paid with cash. So locals have the option. They weren't forced to only use Bitcoin as a form of payment. People get to choose. Some of them do it, some of them don't. It's hit or miss. So some of this wording is very misleading. But one of the things I did get the inside scoop on is a lot of the locals aren't big fans of the Shivo wallet, and they are going to unwind this private sector wallet, which is not necessary. There's alternatives which are superior. You have the Strike wallet, which is Jack Muller's company, which has their headquarters in El Salvador. You also have Exodus, and you can use any Lightning wallet. It's irrelevant. You don't have to use the government-endorsed private sector Shivo wallet. However, I'm also aware of the benefits. They eat the fees. I know because I hung out with some gangsters that are doing their thing. Some badasses, when I say gangsters, that actually run shop over there, and they straight up told me, if you use the Shivo wallet, it eats the fees. That's one of the advantages. However, when I purchased the pupusas for 10 cents, want to know my Lightning Network fee, because I use the Exodus wallet? 2 pennies. Instant transaction. I just scanned the barcode from that guy's phone, the vendor who received it with the Shivo wallet, $10 transaction, 2 penny fee, instant. So, I mean, I'm not complaining. 2 pennies for a transaction fee, no problem. But anyways, Reuters reported Jan 29th that El Salvador's Congress swiftly approved legislation to amend the Bitcoin laws to comply with the IMF deal, which Bukele had sent just minutes earlier. My understanding is Bukele is playing 5D chess, and he is able to just purchase more Bitcoin, which his actions have shown us since striking the deal. Going from purchasing 1 Bitcoin a day, hey, let's do 11. Let's do 12. And that's precisely what's happening. So it sounds like they're making it even faster. The adoption, that's the bigger picture. Who cares about them winding down the Shivo wallet? Who cares? The bigger picture is they're stacking sats, and that's what it's all about. And that's what the United States needs to do. Now, National Bitcoin Office Director Stacey Herbert, the one and only, shared in December to say that the country's Bitcoin plans have not changed. And I can echo that sentiment because I was just there. I was speaking to the local people, and that's precisely correct. And you can look at Bukele's actions versus the FUD, which the IMF likes to spread, which we know is fear, uncertainty, and doubt. They don't like Bitcoin, the IMF, and they're trying to make it seem bad and that if Bukele did all the wrong things so that other countries don't adopt it. It's called FUD. Now, the Bitcoin office spokesperson also shared that the country intends to keep buying Bitcoin with plans to intensify in 2025. And I read you one of the quotes from Max regarding Bukele's plan of purchasing so many tens of thousands of Bitcoin. So they're not slowing down. Adoption is not slowing down. Don't get it twisted. Bukele just has more ammo to buy more of the biddy. Simple and plain. And also, ARK Invest just confirmed that Bitcoin is on pace to meet its 2030 price target. And if you remember, the bull case for 2030 is 1.5 milli, and their base case is 710 milli, while their bear scenario is 300,000 per coin. Let me know if you agree, disagree with Kathy Wood and ARK Invest. And also, Mikey Saylor, very cryptic earlier today, he tweeted, "Big strategy day," and obviously the B in big is a Bitcoin, and I think there's supposed to be a earnings report for MicroStrategy today, so let's see what the big news is. Stay posted there, family, and again, welcome everyone, anyone just joining the live stream. Good to have you here, live and in the flesh. Next headline, monthly Bitcoin production drops as miners fight the rising hash rate. That's right. The hash rate just hit a new all-time high. The Bitcoin miners reported a drop in the monthly production as mining difficulty as the computational power required to confirm the Bitcoin transactions to mine the new blocks continue to increase. Bitcoin production for prominent Bitcoin miners include Hut 8, Marathon, and Bitfarms saw a dip in January compared to the last month of 2024. In contrast, Riot Platforms recorded a 2.1% increase of the Bitcoin production and now bucking the trend. And throughout January, the difficulty of the Bitcoin network ranged around the all-time high value of 110 trillion. The difficulty in producing new blocks have increased 27.8% since the last halving event on April 20th, 2024. Foreseeing this need for increased computational power, Bitcoin miners have been upgrading their equipment and streamlining their business operations to remain profitable. Compared to December of 2024, Hut 8's monthly Bitcoin production dropped 27% as it mined 65 Bitty in January. Similarly, Marathon and Bitfarms recorded 12.5% and 4.7% decrease in monthly Bitcoin production, respectively. Riot Platforms commissioned a new mining facility over in Texas in January to initiate the larger scale 1 gigawatt development for their Bitcoin mining. As they shared in their announcement from their CEO, the Corsiana facility reached a deployed hash rate of 15.7 exahashes per second. Towards the end of the month, we also continue to see strong results from the newly deployed miners and immersion systems reflected in the significant improvement in our operational hash rate and utilization rates. Meanwhile, Asher, the CEO of Hut 8, announced the new completion of the infrastructure upgrades that should improve its overall mining capacity in the coming weeks. And on the other hand, the Bitcoin mining hash rate is expected to decline due to the reduction in mining difficulty and fewer pre-orders for the hardware mining. And mining difficulty fell to 108 in the last week of January, while maintaining a hash rate of approximately 832 terahashes per second. So there you have it. And if you don't know, now you know. Next headline. Let's break her down after the freeze frame, of course. Rainforest Foundation, U.S. NGO, plans a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Send it. Strategic Bitcoin reserves and Bitcoin-based treasuries are all the rage these days as 14 states, the U.S. government, El Salvador, and other countries, and a handful of the banks and corporations have publicly announced or proposed plans to launch reserves, strategic Bitcoin reserves, that is. While the reasons for creating the Bitcoin-backed treasuries are many, the Rainforest Foundation, U.S., is creating one with the goal of tripling its operating budget and its rainforest conservation efforts over the next decade. Let's go. Host of the Agenda podcast, Jonathan DeYoung, spoke to Rainforest Foundation U.S. Executive Director Suzanne to learn more about its goal of raising 100 Bitcoin, which is roughly 10 million at 100,000 per biddy, as well as to explore the NGO's 37-year history of helping indigenous peoples in South America protect their ancestral land rights in the rainforests of Peru, Brazil, and Guyana. That's what's up. And when asked about the reasons for forming the Bitcoin Treasury, called the Treasury for the Trees, she said the Rainforest Foundation wants to raise the equivalent of its 10 million 2024 annual budget, as the NGO had realized that the cash in our bank account is just losing value, hence the melting ice cube effect. Quoting her here, with inflation and dollar debasement, the money that the people have given us that we are holding in a reserve is losing value. We were inspired by looking at the companies, particularly, of course, MicroStrategy and other for-profit companies that are looking at adding Bitcoin to the treasury. So we wanted to take that model to the nonprofit sector. Bitcoin for the nonprofits. Winning. Regarding the timing of the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve launch, she said, we just think with the market cycles with Bitcoin, it makes sense to do it now. I agree. Now is the time. At this point in the halving cycle, it looks like there could be a potential for a lot of appreciation this year. So we wanted to launch at this point. Regulatory changes and obviously the price action, we just saw this as an important moment to launch as soon as possible. Most of the proposed Bitcoin strategic reserves have stipulations that the acquired Bitcoin cannot be spent for a specific number of years, or in the case of the U.S., redemption can only be used to pay down the national debt. The Rainforest Foundation Bitcoin Treasury differs in that collected funds would be used for the organization's various initiatives all across South America. She also said the foundation's tutorial monitoring work at the community level in Peru costs $2 an acre per year. So with one Bitcoin donation, you can help support local communities protecting 50,000 acres for 1 year. I got one word that comes to mind: ayahuasca. Broski, the rainforest. Let's go. And additional information for the NGO website details: the $147 worth of the Bitcoin provides satellite monitoring for 50 acres of rainforest. You hear the chairman of the SEC going wild downstairs? Nippinators growling and everything. I wonder if the lizard folks, I wonder if Gary is up to something. Warren. Somebody check on Elizabeth Warren. Anyways, yeah, I mean, so for a very small donation, you can help protect a lot of the indigenous people's lands. I'm all for that. It sounds pretty awesome. She said the Rainforest Foundation U.S. differs from other NGOs and charities that have the tendency to be more land conservation focused than people focused by supporting indigenous people on the front lines of rainforest protection and by standing in solitary. And those who call the rainforest home, the Rainforest Foundation U.S. uses funds to support the international, local, indigenous teams by strengthening organizations and providing legal, technical advocacy support for the indigenous people, ancestral land rights, and the environmental conservation. And quoting them again here, all of our work is done in partnership with the indigenous peoples and the indigenous partners that we work with. A lot of times what we do is co-create projects, and then we take as an organization for try to the funding. We don't have to come in with an agenda. We always work with partnerships with not just consultation, but partnership with the communities. Well, that's important. We got to do what's in the best interest of the people, especially if that's their home, in which it is. Shout out to the indigenous tribes across South America, across Central America, across Puerto Rico, and across the land. You feel me? We're going to discuss Ohio Senator introduces the state's second Bitcoin reserve bill. As you can see on your screen, Ohio lawmaker introduced a second bill to allow the state to invest in the biddy to create local reserve of the crypto. Ohio Senate Bill 57, referred to as the Final Institutions Insurance and Technology Committee for January 29th, authorizes the state treasurer to invest state funds solely into the Bitcoin to create the Ohio Bitcoin Reserve Fund. It requires Bitcoin investments to be held for at least 5 years and mandates secure custody solutions for holding the asset. Ohio Senator Sandra O'Brien introduced the bill Jan 28th and wrote that the crypto world is here. Ohio needs to be the leader. Crypto will be the major part of the President Trump term. When his working group issues recommendations, Ohio will be ready. Donald Trump signed the executive order, as you know, Jan 23rd, establishing a crypto working group to evaluate, amongst other things, potentially creating a national digital asset stockpile. The Ohio bill also requires state entities and government agencies to accept crypto for payments, including taxes, fees, fines, and other government charges. However, you hodl your biddy, and when you got to pay those taxes, use the dirty fiat money, family. I'm just saying. It also stipulates that when agencies receive crypto, they must convert it to the Biddy and transfer it to the reserve. It also establishes a process for Ohio residents, state agencies, state universities to donate the Biddy to the fund, and allows the treasurer to create a recognition program for significant donors. The SB 57 is one of the many Bitcoin-related bills to be proposed in the state. In December, Ohio House Republican leader Derek Merrin introduced the HB 703, the Ohio Bitcoin Reserve Act, which would give the state treasurer the option to allocate the Biddy to a reserve fund. Quoting them here, the U.S. dollar is being rapidly devalued, and our state treasurer should have the authority and the flexibility to invest in the Biddy when determining the proper asset allocation. September, Ohio Senator Nuraj introduced a bill allowing the state to accept the crypto for the payment for the taxes and the fees. The number of the U.S. states proposing crypto investment bills is adding up. Late January, Utah House Committee passed a bill that would allow the state to invest a portion of the public funds into the crypto. And Ohio is among just 12 U.S. states that have proposed bills. I think it's up to 15 now, just FYI, giving the local treasuries permission to buy the crypto assets. And 2 more, Arizona and Utah, have bills that are in the progress, according to the Bitcoin Reserve Monitor, as you can see right here live and on your screen. And there you have it, Bitty Broskies. I mean, let me know your thoughts with the adoption as the game theory and the hash wars continue to play out across the globe. The headline reads, Bitcoin Reserve review is top priority for the Trump administration, according to the Crypto Czar, David Sachs. And hopefully you guys actually watched that speech. And I'm just going to read you the highlights. Here's what he said verbatim. One of the things that the president instructed us to do was to evaluate the idea for the Bitcoin Reserve. So that is one of the first things we are going to look at as part of the internal working group of the administration. So as soon as we get all that set up, we are still waiting for some cabinet secretaries who are on the working group to get confirmed. So we are still in the very early stages of this, but that is one of the first things we're going to look at. It is the feasibility of the Bitcoin Reserve. I think the concept of the sovereign wealth fund is a little separate. So he's ultimately saying the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve is a separate thing, and they're looking into the feasibility, which again is kind of like, it's not saying that we're doing it, it's saying we're entertaining it. Ultimately, they're looking into it. And on the campaign trail, Trump said his administration would stop selling its trove of seized Bitcoin. That's a step in the right direction. Unlike the Biden administration, who has been dumping all the Biddy to ultimately tank the asset. And then there's a new proposal from Republican Senator Bill Hagerty calling the Guiding Establishing National Innovation of the U.S. Stablecoins Act, aiming to clearly define stables and require issuers to provide audited reports that meet the capital reserve requirements. Now for our featured story of the day. As the headline reads, Bitcoin price will rise to $500,000 per Bitcoin before Trump leaves office, which means by the year 2028, according to Standard Chartered Bank. Primary shareholder BlackRock, FYI, if you don't know, now you know. The British multinational bank Standard Chartered predicts that Bitcoin will soar to $500,000 before Trump leaves office as president of the U.S. This price increase, the bank believes, will come as a result of a friendlier regulatory environment and greater access to the asset. What does that mean? Now that Gensler went home and got his shine box, Bitcoin can shine. Let's go. Standard Chartered believes the Bitcoin will hit $200,000 per coin this year, 2025, steadily increasing to $300,000 per coin next year in 2026. Extended bull run scenario. $400,000 by 2027. Hell yeah. And then $500,000 in 2028. So I guess they're ultimately predicting a 4-year bull run. Send it. When it believes Bitcoin will plateau finally in the next year. So I guess they believe it will plateau then. So be it. Bitcoin's currently at around 98 at the time of the live stream, so a 43% increase from its price of 68.8 before Trump secured the electoral victory in November. It's crazy to even fathom that. We were 68 G's back in November, just a few months ago, broskies. So yeah, Standard Chartered's prediction of 500 G's would be a 407% increase from this position. In this scenario, Bitcoin would have a market cap of $10.5 trillion, likely surpassing Apple and Microsoft in the process. And at this price, it would also account for roughly half of gold's current. Damn, is the gold market cap that high now? It's climbing. $19.4 trillion. Let's go. I think there will be a great flippening, and I do believe Bitcoin could be multi-millions by that time. The primary reason the Standard Chartered believes the Biddy has room for growth is due to the increase in investor access following the January 2024 introduction of the Bitcoin ETFs. As you know, January 11th of 2024, 11 ETF spots for the Biddy went live in the United States of America, and now BlackRock has like 5% of the circulating supply. just like that. And they had zero. So thank you, Larry Fink, for pumping the bags. I'm just saying. Now go home and get your shine box there, Larry. And quoting Geoff Kendrick of Standard Chartered, he says the ETFs have attracted a net $39 billion of inflows thus far this year. Since the inception last year. Supporting the theory of the pent-up demand is being unleashed by the increased access. Send it. Kendrick, and we're not talking Lamar, adds that the U.S. regulatory environment is getting friendlier and friendlier now that Gary is out. The repeal of the staff accounting bulletin. No more war on crypto. Thank you. Thank you for that. The guidance that required the companies to record the digital assets as liabilities. Well, guess what? It's not a liability. It's an asset. Want to know what a liability is? A melting ice cube we call fiat. Take that, lizard folk. Trump's January 23rd order that the administration evaluate a potential national digital asset stockpile is important, as this could encourage other central banks to consider the Bitcoin investments. Just note, Bitcoin existed before the state. Bitcoin separates money from state. Bitcoin kills the state. One of my favorite Max Kaiser quotes, by the way, and it's so motherfucking true. If this starts to come into fruition, Standard Chartered explains that Bitcoin's notorious volatility will temper, which will attract traditional investors that were previously scared of the price swings. If you're scared of the price swings, are you like, some people view volatility as, that's like, I guess it's the propaganda term in the mainstream. But Bitcoin is so volatile. That's why we fucking love it. The volatility is an opportunity. The volatility is the life force. The volatility is fantastic when Bitcoin is up 100 million% since the inception and continues to go up forever, Laura. I welcome the volatility. In fact, I'm not interested in the asset with no volatility. Stablecoin. No, thank you. I prefer Bitcoin. Embrace the volatility, fellas, is all I got to say. As volatility falls, they say, the Bitcoin share of the optimistic 2-asset portfolio of the gold increases. Investor access and lower the volatility should lead to the price appreciation for the longer term as the portfolios continue to move towards their optimal logical state. And there you have it. And if you don't know, now you know, crypto bros.